Somebody's leaving Ford Field on Sunday, 0-2. Who will that be?
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, folks. Locked On Lions, Matt Derry. Locked On Bears, Lauren Cox. It is a Thursday crossover brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. Yes, PrizePicks bringing us the crossover Thursday once again. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Matt and Lauren with you. As I said, thanks for making us your first listen, everybody, and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. The 0-1 Lions, Sunday at Ford Field, taking on the 0-1 Bears. It is the return of Ben Johnson, or as I like to call him, Lauren, on our show here in Detroit, Benedict Johnson, making his return to Detroit from Chicago. Great to see you, my friend. First of all, what was Monday night like, and what was your reaction? And now, as the dust is settled, how do you feel about this weekend?
Yeah, Monday night and really week one was a real tough, hard not to overreact kind of situation, because we've been waiting to see what everything was going to be. And so then, of course, whatever we see in the first game of Ben Johnson's offense and Dennis Allen's defense, that's going to be like the ultimatum and really must be what the Bears are as a team, when it's hard to keep it in perspective and say, no, this is like their first actual game doing this. Like, we don't have to think that everything we saw in week one is exactly what it's going to be the rest of the season. And yet there was something still particularly painfully familiar about team blows it at the end and has a win slip right out of their fingertips in a way that felt kind of Eberflusian, but at least it kind of felt like they did it. They got there. Like, the result felt the same, but they got there in a different way. So at least it's a different kind of disappointment, because expectations were so much higher that they thought, especially with how strong they started that game, that, everything was solved. And then all of a sudden it felt like nothing was solved.
Interesting here in Detroit. People are panicking. People do not like this. The expectations have been raised. The bar has been raised. Dan Campbell said on Wednesday, hey, look, we're okay with fans being upset that we laid an egg. We understand we need to play better and should be better. But people are just freaking out because you got the two new coordinators. You got the new center, the new right guard, heck, a new left guard. And the Lions really got their clocks cleaned by Pete Bukowski's Packers. I'm sure a lot of my listeners were like, oh gosh, they were avoiding Pete all week, but seriously, it just was not a good performance. But you get 16 more of these, and it's, certainly time to come home. And I think the biggest storyline for Detroit is cleaning up the communication and getting back to playing their brand of football, powering the football on the ground, Montgomery, Gibbs, and just playing better. Really all three phases, including the kicking game. Kick returns were messy. Kick coverage was messy. All of that kind of has to be the story in Detroit. What about in Chicago? What's the biggest storyline for you?
Yeah, it's a very similar feeling, right? Where it's like it just was messier than it was supposed to be. Communication on offense, timing of routes and throws, but then also timing of the snap count. They had 3 or 4 false starts in that game, 12 penalties as a whole, a lot of different things that go wrong that all collectively add up to a loss. And you feel like, well, some of that stuff should generally be pretty quick fix stuff. And some of it might be longer running issues here, where if the offensive line was not really as improved as it was supposed to be. And so there's some injuries on defense that until those guys come back, you can't just fix it and make the backups somehow, way better than they actually are supposed to be. So there's also the similar feeling of you don't want to panic and throw everything out the window just yet, but you need to see some drastic improvement. And it feels like, for me, it's not a must-win game for both teams in week 2, but it's definitely a must be a lot better, or else everyone's really going to panic.
Ben Johnson took some blame after the game on Monday night and did so again on Tuesday, just about clock management. Were you surprised that everybody knows you need the 2-minute warning as your timeout? And except apparently him and the special teams coach, that was a big snafu the other night, wasn't it?
Well, it was more so. I mean, it is at the end of the day, it does fall on the coaching staff, but they believed their kicker when they asked him and he said he could get it out of the back of the end zone. They said, all right, get it out of the back of the end zone. And he couldn't. He just doesn't have the leg. And maybe they should have known better, but maybe you want to trust your guys in the first game and not overrule them and not say, well, you say you can do it, but we don't trust you, so we're not going to have you do it. I get that can be a difficult thing to navigate, but a lot of that's, first time head coach in his first game, he had a bad challenge flag he threw, but those things tend to fall a little bit lower on the level of like things that directly resulted in a loss. I mean, Caleb Williams missed some throws that he absolutely needs to hit at this stage of his career. The offensive line and the running game were a lot worse than they should have been. The pass rush disappeared, and maybe they didn't adjust as well as the Vikings did from a coaching standpoint. That all those things absolutely quickly need to be better. And I'm curious for you from Detroit's perspective. A lot of Bears fans are wondering, when you look at adjustments Detroit needs to make, like how much felt like a direct result of new coordinators and how much felt like a direct result of new players, on the offensive line and some other changes they did on defense.
I just think it's everything. I really do. It's the only person that got a game ball for me, and I do game balls on our Sunday show, was Isaac Tesla, and he caught one pass. It was the most unbelievable catch of all time. It was really damn good. It meant nothing. It was the end of the game. They needed a score. They were coming down the field. So I gave him a game ball for the effort, but everybody is to blame. I mean, to sit here and say, all right, Hank Fraley, the Lions offensive line coach, I think is their best assistant. He didn't just get dumb in one game. And really, and send guys out there to fail. But my goodness, Graham Glasgow at center taking over for Ragnow, and Frank's retirement is a big storyline. But Glasgow played a very poor game, the lowest rated offensive player on the Lions, according to PFF. He was brutal. Christian Mahogany, the left guard who played the Bears last year and played well, really was bad. Tate Ratledge, the first round pick at right guard, was no good. The D line couldn't get any pressure. It was, first drive of the game, Jordan Love's jersey is as clean as it ever was, and he goes 8 for 8. I mean, you got to put some pressure on him. Aiden Hutchinson didn't have a tackle in that game. So I think it's a mix of everything. The coaches admitted maybe they should have played some guys in the preseason. Maybe they should have played some of the younger guys in the preseason. Also, they just looked unprepared, and I think that's on everybody. So
it's striking how similar the issues are for both teams. Like for the Bears, it was interior offensive line. Like center Drew Dahlman was supposed to be an upgrade. He was
horrible.
And Jonah Jackson was even worse. I mean, at least Lions fans are familiar with Jonah Jackson's struggles, and it felt like more of that Jonah Jackson than the Pro Bowler from 2022. And then that's like the Lions, the pass rush. Like they sacked JJ McCarthy on the first 2 drives, and then the pass rush was totally gone from there for the rest of the game. And it's funny how like both of these teams are looking to improve a lot of the same things now against each other in week 2.
No, I think you're right. And I think both defenses are better than what they showed. Certainly the Vikings in the second half ran the ball right down the Bears' throats. I'm a Dexter fan. He got pushed around a little bit. Obviously, some of the additions on the interior of that defensive line. Sweat made that one play, but like you said, second half couldn't get to McCarthy. And that defense is good. My question's with your quarterback. I just wonder if he is going to be the guy. I think he's got to get a full season. This talk of, the Caleb Williams experiment, I think that's for the talking heads on TV. He's going to get a whole year, of course. But I think the Lions also, same thing, can be better. I mean, just the fact of the matter is Jordan Love had way too much time to throw all day. And guys they expected a lot more from, including Aiden Hutchinson, who's just coming back from a leg injury, Marcus Davenport, even some guys in the secondary. DJ Reed really struggled, lowest defender on the PFF scores on the defensive side. So yeah, it wasn't good.
Quick thing on Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Did the Micah Parsons deal totally ruin the Lions' chances of signing him to an extension? Is there a direct
Hutchinson to an extension?
Yeah, because there was talk of Hutchinson getting a deal, and then Parsons gets $45 million, and then all of a sudden the report comes out that Hutchinson's not going to get a deal, and they're just going to play.
No, I mean, I still think he's going to stay. I see no scenario where it even gets to a franchise tag situation in a couple of years. I don't. But he is too important. The Lions have done a great job retaining their own guys. Heck, they got Jameson Williams signed past 2027 now on a pretty team-friendly deal at $27 million a year, which for a receiver in 2 years could be up to $35, $37 million. So no, I think it'll be okay. I think people just panic when they didn't get him signed before the season, but he's not going anywhere. I think he's just too popular, local kid from here and from the University of Michigan. And I think they'll figure that out.
Yeah, I guess did it screw them from getting him on a good deal? Like they were.
Well, that's a good question. I mean,
Parsons jumped up that price tag all of a sudden.
Oh, he did.
Shit, never mind. Got to wait.
But Parsons looked the part, even in limited snaps, looked the part of a guy that deserved that $47 million. Just what he brought to the table that whole day on Sunday. I think his moxie, his aura, just his presence there kind of really fired the Packers and their crowd up. and the Lions never really recovered from it. So, all right, Lauren Cox with us. Of course, Matt Derry with you, Locked On Lions, Locked On Bears with Lauren. Thursday crossover as we combine the two programs to get you ready for Sunday's 1 o'clock tilt with the Lions and the Bears. Both games last year pretty close, and the Bears have played well at Ford Field the last 2 years and could have won both games. We'll get into some key matchups coming up next right here on Locked On Lions and Locked On Bears. Thursday crossover also brought to you by our friends at Mazda Craft Cars. For those who do more than simply move, Mazda always delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS top safety picks, awards than anyone else. And that goes back to August of 2025. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all the details. We know that. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. With all-wheel drive standard and every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence throughout almost any season with our friends at Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And we're brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy as well. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies and making great memories with friends. It is a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course playing with some buddies or just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5 Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. Seriously, you're out on the golf course. It's still that time of year where you can get out there. It's going to be warmer here in the Midwest this weekend. You know, sometimes you get to hole 15, 16, you're exhausted. Get that 5 Hour Energy Transfusion to get you through 18. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5 Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the beverage cart. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. 5hewin.com. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. Locked On Bears, Locked On Lions for a Thursday edition. Getting you ready for Sunday's game in Detroit. Ford Field will be the site. Lauren Cox, Locked On Bears. My name is Matt Derry from Locked On Lions. Lauren, great to be with you again. We had the Locked On NFC North preview a few weeks ago. We talked about it. The Bears are bringing to the table more talent. It's simple as that. And now the head coach in Ben Johnson coming back home. How do you view, or what should we look for in terms of matchups? And maybe what do you think, what are a couple of wrinkles you think Ben throws the Lions' way?
Yeah, so I think the biggest matchup question here is going to be health related. You know, week one, the Bears did not have Jalen Johnson at cornerback. They didn't have Kyler Gordon at cornerback. Didn't have TJ Edwards at linebacker. And those were all areas that you might expect Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings to target and attack. And so, you know, as we record this on for the Thursday podcast, Wednesday's practice was a walkthrough practice that wasn't, the injury report is estimated, but Jalen Johnson was a full participant estimated in practice. So there's a good chance that he could come back. And then TJ Edwards, I think, was limited. So he might be able to make it back. And I think those can be the absolute difference in a game like this. Like if you have Jalen Johnson who can cover, either he could follow Amon-Ra St. Brown to the slot if they need to, or he can take Jamison Williams deep. Or if the Bears have to have former fifth round pick Noah Sewell in at linebacker, Jared Goff and this Lions offense are going to attack him over and over again in the passing game, try and get Sam Laporta matched up with him or Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. And that didn't go well against Aaron Jones or TJ Hutchinson last week. So the difference between having the backups and the starters at those two spots in defense, I think will go a really long way in this one.
Yeah, I saw Sewell, obviously, with the connection with Penei Sewell. Number 44, his back was turned a ton in the second half. And, great kid, great lineage, but I don't know if he's ready for prime time yet.
But, when you see a linebacker with a neck roll in 2025, that tells you got to throw against him because he can stop the run, but he's not going to be good in coverage.
Do you think Ben Johnson saved trick? Everybody kept saying on social media during the game, I watched the whole thing, where are the trick plays? Do you think Ben's saving a couple of things for week 2 because he's coming home?
I don't know that it was specifically because it's the Lions and coming home. I mean, I think for the most part, they thought it's the Vikings, they're going to blitz us. Trick plays tend to take a little bit more time to develop or just require a little bit. It's harder to execute a good trick play against a blitz, like unless it's specifically designed for, the blitz to be so aggressive and then you get it behind them or something. So I don't think it was necessarily like, oh, I'm saving this. I think it's a combination of Flores' defense was tough to run those against, and this offense isn't ready for trick plays yet. Like they're still trying to really solidify the regular quote unquote easy plays, the normal stuff. They got to be able to hit, the 10-yard slant route before they can start doing the wide receiver reverse pass. But we have seen Ben at least dabble with, DJ Moore got 3 handoffs from the backfield. They put Luther Burden in the backfield a time or two and didn't hand the ball off, but there was a touchdown they ran where they faked a toss to Burden and then had DeAndre Swift at wide receiver in motion. It was like a fake jet, then turned in a fake toss, and then threw it behind to Romadunze on a slant. That's not a trick play per se, but it was like Ben Johnson sort of drawing something up that
he ran that here last year. Remember,
Yeah.
I think it was Tim Patrick who caught it in the back of the end zone. So, look, he's a wizard, no question about it. We saw some of the warts as a first-time head coach the other day, and I know people, like I said, including me, were freaking out about. I just couldn't believe he didn't kick the ball out of bounds. But I'll say this about Lions matching up with Chicago. There were times in the game in last Sunday at Lambeau, Lions had some issues with Tucker Kraft. He got down the field, he got down the seam. The touchdown against Brian Branch. Branch matched up with Loveland and Kmet, I think will be interesting. I want to watch the tight ends against the linebackers. I think that would be a key, because that's just something where if Caleb's struggling looking outside, if he's got his guys up the middle, I think Ben Johnson knows the Lions defense very well. He was here for years, so he knows these guys. And I think, I'm not saying he's going to pick on Brian Branch. Branch is great, but how much will he try to go at the Lions linebackers and middle of the field in the passing game? And like I said earlier too, Lions offensive line against the Bears defensive line has to be stout, has to be moving bodies. There were times in the games last year, even at Soldier Field late in the year, Lions ran the ball down the Bears' throats. Got to do it again. Montgomery, who always likes playing against the Bears, Jahmyr Gibbs. We got to see what Lions football, get back to the identity of what it was in the past, regardless of all the things Ben Johnson did as a play caller. Their bread and butter was still, kind of ground and pound and beating teams into submission and then setting up some of the trickery and some of the play action stuff. So those are a couple of things I'm definitely looking at,
Yeah, the Bears definitely couldn't get the ground and pound going anywhere close to the way they wanted to against the Vikings. But I'm curious in that, how do you view the sort of like the coaching matchup here, in the sense of like, with Kelvin Shepard being an internal promotion, presumably we would think there's probably a decent amount of continuity in this Lions defense. And yet every year you put in wrinkles that are different from the year before. So it's not like Ben Johnson knows everything Kelvin Shepard's going to do. And same thing on offense with John Morton, obviously coming from Denver, but having been on the staff before and having connections to this team. I guess, how much do you think there will be for Ben Johnson to say, oh, I know this scheme, because he'll know the players. I mean, that's the players that he coached, he'll know their strengths and weaknesses. But from like a scheme standpoint, how different do the Lions feel offensively? Because I think from a Bears perspective, Ben Johnson's Bears offense has some similar themes as the Lions offense, but like the receivers are different and the running backs are different. So it's not a 1-to-1 translation. So it doesn't perfectly line up. But I think there's some things that the Lions will know, hey, Ben likes to do this, and we can anticipate that's going to happen.
Well, I'd say this: Kelvin Shepard, I believe, dropped Aiden Hutchinson in coverage 3 times last week, and he had dropped him back. Aaron Glenn had dropped him back a few times last year before the injury. He's that athletic. He had an interception on Aaron Rodgers a few years ago when Aaron was in Green Bay, where at Ford Field, where Hutch was kind of back and made a play in the passing game. But Kelvin Shepard, I think, is going to be just as aggressive as Aaron Glenn was. I think Glenn got very aggressive toward the end of last season when all the guys were hurt and he almost had to blitz just to get home.
Yeah.
But they know each other very well. And John Morton worked under Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell a few years ago. He's calling plays from upstairs, not down on the sideline where Ben Johnson was. So that is a little bit of a change. But no, all in all, I think these two teams know each other very well. These two coaches know each other very well. Dan Campbell has said all the right things. I know Ben made some comments in the offseason, whether it was kind of a little dig at Jared Goff at the combine or some of the stuff with LaFleur. But I think he kind of, I'm not saying he got knocked down a peg, right, Lauren? But first game loss at home, blowing a double-digit lead. I don't think he's going to come in with as much of a swagger to Ford Field as maybe he would have a week ago. Is that accurate?
100% there. Like, we know, but like Ben Johnson's never been like the cocky guy, you know, but I do think there was a certain amount of humbling is not the right word, because I don't think he needed to be humbled, but sort of like a wake-up call, a realization of like, oh wow, this is still the Chicago Bears. I still got a lot of work to do. I can't just come in and have fixed everything. It's like, oh no, there's a stench around this franchise that they're still in the process of fumigating.
All right, how do these teams win? What do the Bears have to do? What do the Lions have to do to get the dub on Sunday? We'll do that coming up next. Thursday crossover, Locked On Lions, Locked On Bears, were brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. NFL season is here, as we know. Thursday night football tonight. FanDuel making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel's got the Lions as 4.5-point favorites this Sunday against the Bears. If you want to get in on that, you can with FanDuel. Makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on that fantasy lineup. And it's quick and easy and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Simple. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Matt Derry, Locked On Lions. Thursday crossover with Lauren Cox, Locked On Bears. These two teams squaring off Sunday at 1 o'clock, of course, on Fox, noon Central Time. All right, Lauren, we've talked a lot about it, but what do the Bears got to do to get a win? What has to change, and how do they do it?
Yeah, it's got to be a very classic Ben Johnson approach, right? Like, they have to run the ball more effectively, and by that includes blocking the run more effectively and be able to take some of the pressure off of Caleb Williams in that regard. He was running for his life a bit more than the Bears had expected with the offensive line additions they had to make. And then, of course, Caleb himself has to hit some of these throws. Like, he missed open receivers too often in this game that you just can't continue to have. And I think, generally speaking, it felt like this Bears defense, like we talked about earlier, like, should be good enough. Like, yeah, they gave up 3 late touchdowns against the Vikings, and they were a part of blowing this, but also had a pick 6 and put 7 points on the board and generally did a pretty good job for the majority of that game. So I think there's less concern about that side of the ball and more a feeling of like, hey, like Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson company all have to sort of live up to that. So it doesn't have to be a very complicated thing. They want to make it as easy as possible. And it just felt like things have just been too difficult at every single level. So as simple as they can make it. I mean, sometimes at the end of the day, it's just like, guys got to be better. I don't know that there's a lot more from a coaching standpoint. Receivers were open. There was extra blockers in there to help protect against the blitz. Like, that they were putting guys in position, and they just have to be able to do it better. And that becomes a whole different ball game of like, are the players good enough? And that's kind of what we need to find out quickly here against the Lions.
No, I agree with you. And I think these two teams are, you're right, in very similar situations where the expectations were higher. The performance wasn't great, although the Bears had a halftime lead and felt pretty good about themselves in that first half. That first drive, Soldier Field was going nuts. And you get a stop, you get a great scripted first 15 plays, and that place was going crazy. And certainly the second half was not to the Bears fans' liking. I want to watch, for me, I want to see DJ Reader and Tyleik Williams in the middle of that defensive line push Drew Dahlman around. I watched Dahlman the other night, and he looked like what Graham Glasgow looked at like with the Lions. Maybe it's just his first game. I know he got a lot of money, and that was the center that was going to be anchoring that offensive line. But let's see DJ Reader do something. He was given a lot of money in last offseason, and I'm hoping, I'm calling for a game for him where he's disruptive, maybe getting in the backfield, maybe some stuffs on some runs. That's something to keep an eye on. The other thing for me, for the Lions, Lauren, field position. My God, the other day it just seemed like the Lions were buried inside their 20 all game, starting every drive. They had one drive started at the 3-yard line, then had a loss. It was nearly a safety on a missed assignment offensively on the offensive line. Just seemed like the entire game the Packers were playing at their 40, 50, Lions 40, and the Lions were starting every drive at the 20. I mean, there were not many drives that started well. I think Jack Fox maybe pinning the Bears deep if they got a punt, and the Lions maybe getting a return or two, or Bears maybe mess up, Lions take a knee, and they get it at the 35. They need some breathing room. They spent way too much time last week deep in their own territory.
I will say that was a problem for Chicago against Minnesota that, again, is down on the list of a dozen things that went wrong in that game. But like, the Vikings were getting a lot of yards on punt returns. Never a big breakaway one, but like, it's those like hidden 15, 20-yard returns that just kept giving the Vikings field position closer and closer to midfield. They didn't have to do these 80-yard touchdown drives, and it could be JJ McCarthy kind of just taking his time and not needing to be the hero. That's definitely an area Chicago needs to be better this week. And to keep the parallels going with these two teams, you talk about the defensive line, the interior, your defensive line, and DJ Reader needing to be better and earn his paycheck. Grady Jarrett's the same way for Chicago, like really a non-factor in that first game against the Vikings. They gave him a bunch of money. He's a veteran. He should be able to be better. And you look at both teams, look at the other center and say, hey, we should be able to have our expensive defensive tackle be good against their struggling center. And it's really striking how both of these are. And yet I wonder if you're experiencing this too from Detroit's perspective, where it's like Drew Dahlman and Grady Jarrett, and I'm sure from your side, Graham Glasgow and DJ Reader, like these are veteran players.
Yeah.
Like, at some point,
need more. Yeah.
Like at least with like Christian Mahogany and Tate Ratledge, it's like, oh, those are young guys. They should keep getting better from week to week. But like these are guys in their 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th year. Like, I don't know what can I expect a veteran player to go from bad in week 1 to a lot better in week 2? I mean, you're allowed to have a bad game, but at some point, like, is that just who you are at this stage of your career?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the issue with Glasgow is he's 33. And last year in especially the second half of the year at left guard, he really struggled. And everybody loves him. He's a great dude. He's the second tour of duty in Detroit. But everybody said, all right, he's not a left guard. He's either a right guard or a center. And so game 1 was bad. But again, everybody was bad. Jared Goff wasn't good. So we'll see if that gets turned around. It's predictions, thoughts on this. I'll take the Lions. I'm looking at, I think it'll be right on the number. I see kind of a 28-23 final, maybe 23-17. I still think both these offenses need some time. Lions with the new coordinator and just working out some cobwebs from not being out there during preseason. And obviously probably the Bears the same way. What do you think?
Yeah, this is tough for me. I mean, in week 1 against the Vikings, it was easier for me to say, like, going up against a Vikings team that is a little bit more established, even with a young quarterback. And I think the Bears will probably lose that game and have some growing pains to do. But then it was great out of the start. And I felt like, oh man, I was way wrong. And then it finished and I was like, no, wait a minute. I think I was a little bit more on track there. But then now for Detroit in week 2, it's like, should I expect the Bears to be better or should I expect the Lions to be better? Like, it feels like both of them have a lot of reason to think, oh, we might lose this game and be screwed. So how can I be confident in either team, really being the definitive winner here? I still find myself feeling like the Lions are, even with two new coordinators, right? They're the more veteran, experienced team that's worked together and has been in these same systems longer. And Green Bay might just be really, really good. That made them look bad. And I'm not convinced that the Vikings are actually a really good team, that the Bears played tough here. So I again think the Bears still have to earn it from me to the benefit of the doubt back. Like, I think if it was a clean slate, I would think maybe the Bears could come back and get a win this week. But given that they haven't really broken that Bears stench that we talked about, like, yeah, I still need to see the change result in wins. And so for now, I'm kind of right there with you. Like, yeah, 28-23 feels like a pretty good score there. Maybe I'll go 30-24 Lions, but right in that same range.
Maybe the great Kevin Warren will be there and he can talk to all his friends in Detroit and talk about his new stadium plan. And don't get me started. I don't know, Lauren. I get what the Bears are doing, but I thought, what's the plan? Has he changed the plan like 15 times? Wasn't he brought in to get the stadium deal done? What's going on with that?
He is a football politician through and
through.
Oh
my God.
And he's your politician. So it's like, well, he's got flaws, but he's yours. So, but no, so the whole thing, I mean, this quick short answer here, because I know we're running out of time, is the whole game has been, let's take the city of Chicago and let's take the suburbs, Arlington Heights, and we'll pit them against each other. And who's ever going to give us the better deal, we're going to go with them. So at first they say we're going to Arlington Heights, and then the new mayor comes to Chicago and comes back to the bargaining table. So, okay, now we're going to go down to downtown Chicago. So then Arlington Heights comes back with a better tax deal, and now we're fully focused on Arlington Heights. And there was some issues with the state legislature. They need some state money to do it in downtown, and they can get a better deal in Arlington. So that's where they're really focused now. But I don't think it's been like indecision from Kevin Warren. It's been, I'm trying to pressure each side to give me the best deal. And right now, Arlington's giving him the best deal, so he doesn't have to hide and pretend like he wants anything else.
My favorite was the video when Colston Loveland got drafted and Chef Poles talked to him first, passes the phone to Ben. Ben Johnson's talking to him, says, let me put you on the phone with our president, Kevin Warren. It's like, what? Colston Loveland doesn't need to talk to Kevin Warren. Just either give it to the owner or hang up the phone. It's like,
I don't know.
We got a little bit of that similar here at times with Rod Wood. So
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. Does he need to talk to a McCaskey? Like,
that might be bad luck.
well, Warren's more involved in football decisions, not heavily, but more involved in
Yeah,
football decisions than McCaskey's. But yeah, it does feel kind of.
Lauren, great to see you, and all the best, my friend. We'll do it again later in the year.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for doing it.
Locked on crossover Thursday with Locked On Bears, Lauren Cox, Matt Derry, Locked On Lions, of course, brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. Friday shows for both of us tomorrow.